There is a power within you that has been misunderstood for centuries, not just by society, but by entire civilizations that forgot their own origins. This energy is not something external, nor is it simply physical. It is the core current that drives your creativity, your motivation, your passion, and even your spiritual evolution. It is sexual energy. And while modern culture has reduced it to biology or entertainment, its original purpose was far more profound. It was the source code of human potential. Sexual energy is not just about reproduction. It is the life force itself, the same force that animates nature, gives rise to ideas, fuels transformation, and awakens spiritual awareness. It is the raw electricity that stirs in the body when desire is felt, but when it is properly understood and transmuted, that energy doesn't just lead to temporary pleasure, it becomes the fuel for higher consciousness, for genius, for healing, and for manifestation. In ancient times, mystery schools taught initiates how to harness and redirect this force. The process was called transmutation, taking the base form of sexual energy and converting it into higher expressions. This wasn't about repression, nor indulgence. It was about conscious mastery. When energy that is normally spent or wasted through unconscious action is instead redirected upward through the body, through the mind, into spirit, it becomes a generative force. It sharpens intuition, strengthens focus, deepens magnetism, and aligns you with your higher purpose. Most people unknowingly leak this energy through distraction, addiction, or unexamined impulses. But those who learn to work with it consciously begin to unlock a very different experience of life. This is what ancient alchemists understood, that the secret to personal power, physical vitality, and spiritual illumination was hidden in plain sight. It was never about escaping the body. It was about transforming the body into a vessel of the divine. Sexual energy transmutation is not a metaphor. It's a biological and spiritual technology, one that can be practiced, refined, and mastered. It has the potential to radically elevate your health, your creativity, your emotional intelligence, and even your spiritual perception. And yet, it remains one of the most suppressed and distorted teachings in human history. This video is not just a conversation about energy, it is a journey into the deeper dimensions of your own design. We'll explore the science, the symbolism, and the practical path to unlocking this lost power. But more than that, we'll begin to rewire the way you relate to your own life force, so that you can stop leaking it and start directing it toward what truly matters. If you've ever felt like there's more to your inner power than you've been taught, if you've sensed that your desires are not obstacles, but invitations, and if you're ready to see your own energy as sacred, sovereign, and transformative, then this is your moment. If this message resonates with something deep inside, something intuitive, ancient, and ready to awaken, then I invite you to like this video, subscribe for more soul-deep explorations, and share your reflections in the comments. There is more to uncover, and you're not alone on this path. To truly understand the power of sexual energy transmutation, we must begin by stripping away the cultural conditioning that has distorted its meaning. Sexual energy, at its core, is creative energy. It is not limited to physical intimacy or reproduction. That's merely one expression of it. This energy is what fuels life itself. It's the driving force behind inspiration, ambition, art, spiritual awakening, and even cellular regeneration. It's the spark that moves through every living system, from the germination of a seed to the conception of an idea. In the teachings of ancient Taoism, this energy is called Jing, the essence that fuels life and longevity. In Tantra, it is the kundalini, the serpent energy coiled at the base of the spine, waiting to rise. In Hermeticism, it's the prima materia, the raw spiritual substance that can be refined into gold. Across cultures, the mystics and adepts all pointed to the same truth, that human beings are not just generators of this power, but also conductors capable of channeling it upward into higher centers of consciousness. Sexual energy transmutation is the process of redirecting this force from base-level expression to higher-level creation. Instead of expelling it unconsciously through compulsive desire, it is conserved, transformed, and elevated. This process doesn't suppress the energy, it alchemizes it. It becomes fuel for expanded awareness, deeper creativity, physical healing, and heightened intuition. In a very real sense, the energy that could be lost in a fleeting moment of gratification becomes the energy that fuels your evolution. At the scientific level, there is evidence that retaining and redirecting this energy affects dopamine regulation, neuroplasticity, and hormonal balance. It influences focus, motivation, and overall life force. But beyond biology, this energy carries intention. It responds to where you place your awareness. What you think, what you feel, what you create, these become the channels through which sexual energy can be elevated. The more consciously you relate to your own energy, the more powerful it becomes. This is not just about celibacy or abstinence, it's about sovereignty. It's about choosing how, where, and why you direct your energy. It's about understanding that your creative force is a sacred resource, and when used wisely, it opens doors most never even know exist. When you harness this energy, you become more than productive. You become magnetic. Things begin to move toward you. Ideas, opportunities, people, and synchronicities begin to align because your field becomes coherent, resonant, and full. The ancient Egyptians understood this. Their initiates underwent rites that taught how to redirect sexual power through the spine and into the higher chakras, fueling visions and inner transformation. The yogis mapped this energy as it moved through the Sushumna Nadi, awakening dormant capacities in the brain and heart. The Gnostics spoke of the bridal chamber, a symbolic union between the inner masculine and feminine forces, creating a state of divine integration. In each case, the message was the same. When sexual energy is brought into balance and uplifted, it becomes a sacred fire, not something to avoid, but something to honor, understand, and consciously evolve. Yet most people remain unaware of this potential. They burn through their energy daily, mistaking momentary stimulation for true power. But power that leaks cannot build. Power that is scattered cannot transform. Transmutation is how you begin to reclaim it. It is a shift in how you experience yourself from being a creature of instinct to a being of choice, from unconscious reaction to conscious direction. And here's the truth. When you learn to transmute sexual energy, you begin to vibrate differently. You radiate clarity, depth, and presence. People feel it. Life responds. Not because of what you do, but because of what you've become. If this message stirs something ancient in your soul, subscribe, because the next part of this series goes even deeper. What we've covered here is only the foundation. To go deeper, we must move beyond theory and into the realm of symbol and story, because encoded within mythology, ancient language, and archetype are the keys to unlocking this hidden force within you. Throughout history, the greatest secrets have been hidden in plain sight, cloaked not in invisibility, but in symbolism. The ancients knew that when raw truth was too powerful or too sacred for common conversation, it had to be encoded. That is why the wisdom of sexual energy transmutation appears not just in scrolls or manuscripts, but in mythology, art, sacred geometry, and religious allegory. Take the serpent, for example, feared in some traditions, revered in others. To the untrained eye, the serpent symbolizes danger or temptation. But to the initiate, the serpent is the kundalini, the coiled energy at the base of the spine, waiting to rise through the body's energetic centers and awaken higher consciousness. In the Garden of Eden, the serpent is blamed for the fall, but what if that story was misinterpreted? What if the serpent was not a deceiver, but a revealer offering knowledge, Awakening, the first invitation to evolve beyond mere instinct. In Egyptian iconography, you'll often see serpents rising along the spines of gods or emanating from their third eye. These were not mere decorations, they were maps, blueprints, descriptions of what happens when sexual energy is consciously raised rather than unconsciously discharged. The serpent fire travels the spine like a sacred river, illuminating the chakras, activating dormant abilities, and reuniting the self with the divine. Even the caduceus, the symbol we now associate with medicine, is rooted in this same imagery. Twin serpents spiraling around a central staff, crowned by wings. This is not just a symbol of healing, it's a symbol of transmutation. The serpents represent the dual polarities of energy, masculine and feminine, sexual and spiritual. The staff is the spinal column. The wings are the awakened mind, the liberated soul. It is a diagram of what you become when you raise your energy, instead of letting it stagnate or dissipate. Across traditions, this story repeats itself in the tale of Isis and Osiris, in the dance of Shiva and Shakti, in the sacred marriage rituals of the Gnostics. These were never just love stories. They were blueprints of inner union, the merging of polarities within the self. The inner masculine, direction, focus, structure. The inner feminine, intuition, fluidity, creation. When these forces are consciously united within you, you create a third force, not compromise, but transcendence. You don't just balance, you evolve. This is why sexual energy has always been guarded, feared, or distorted by systems of control, because to truly understand and master, it is to become sovereign, not ruled by appetite, not controlled by systems of guilt and shame, but self-possessed, energetically whole, spiritually radiant. And this is also why most institutions, religious, political, educational, have sought to suppress this knowledge, because a person who has mastered their sexual energy becomes difficult to manipulate. They don't crave hollow validation. They don't seek approval from external authority. They radiate power from within. And that kind of presence threatens the structures built on disempowerment. The story of the phoenix, too, offers a symbolic mirror. This mythical bird doesn't die and end. It dies into transformation, its old self consumed by flame, so its true self may rise from the ashes. That flame is sexual energy. That ash is what remains when the compulsions are burned away. And that rising? That is transmutation. Once you begin to read the world through this lens, you'll see the hidden teachings everywhere in the spiral of DNA, in the cycles of the moon, in the architecture of sacred temples, and the language of dreams. This is not just ancient wisdom, it is living language. Your body knows it. Your soul remembers it. It's only the mind that forgot. To transmute is to remember. To remember is to reawaken. And to reawaken is to reclaim a power that was always yours, but only fully activates when desire meets devotion. Now that we've uncovered the symbolic blueprint, it's time to ground this understanding. The next phase is not about theory or metaphor, but about what it looks like to walk this truth in daily life, to move through the world differently, and to use this sacred power to shape your reality from the inside out. Understanding the concept of sexual energy transmutation is one thing. Living it day by day, breath by breath, is something entirely different. This is where theory becomes alchemy, where knowledge becomes wisdom, and where energy stops being an abstract force and begins to transform the very fabric of your life. To begin integrating this awareness, you must first change the way you relate to your own energy. That means no longer seeing desire as a problem, and no longer framing sexual energy as something to avoid, suppress, or be ashamed of. Instead, you start to treat it as sacred fuel. Like water in a vessel, it can either be spilled unconsciously or directed with precision toward what you are building, be it health, creativity, love, purpose, or spiritual awakening. Every time you feel that familiar surge, whether it's arousal, excitement, or deep longing, that's a moment of immense opportunity. In that space, you are standing at a fork in the energetic road. One path leads to instant gratification and a temporary release. The other path leads to retention, reflection, and redirection, using the energy as a kind of sacred charge to elevate your thoughts, your work, your meditation, your physical training, or your service to others. In practice, this means becoming more aware of your patterns. It means learning to sit with the energy instead of immediately acting on it, breathing into it, holding it in the body without resisting it or indulging it. Over time, your nervous system adapts, and instead of tension or frustration, you begin to feel heightened vitality, clarity, and focus. The energy starts to build, like a fire in the belly. But instead of being wasted, that fire becomes creative momentum. You may find yourself more productive, but not in a forced or frantic way. Ideas begin to flow more naturally. Your presence sharpens, conversations deepen. People respond to you differently because you're no longer leaking your energy through distraction or compulsion. You're radiating it, containing it, amplifying it. You're no longer just reacting to life, you're generating it. This is also where sexual energy begins to touch your emotional and spiritual life. As you retain and refine it, emotions may rise to the surface: old wounds, shame, loneliness, even ancestral trauma. That's not a sign of failure, that's the purification process. When sexual energy moves upward, it brings hidden patterns into the light so they can be healed. Integration means facing those patterns with compassion, not bypassing them, but welcoming them as part of your evolution. Transmutation is also about creative service. That same energy that could be spent in physical release can now be poured into your art, your mission, your relationships, your movement, your meditation. You begin to see that everything becomes richer when it's infused with conscious energy. Meals taste better, music hits deeper, nature speaks louder. Because you're no longer numbed or fragmented, you're alive, awake, and aligned. In intimate relationships, this transformation can be profound. Rather than approaching sexuality as a transaction or escape, it becomes a shared practice of reverence, connection, and energetic exchange. Whether or not you choose physical union, you begin to see every relationship as an opportunity to refine your energy to uplift rather than deplete. You stop needing others to fill your cup because you are filling it from within. This creates deeper, more authentic bonds built on presence, not possession. This practice also spills into how you move through challenges. Instead of reacting from impulse or falling into habitual loops, you begin to respond with grounded awareness. You recognize that energy is always trying to move, and your task is to shape it with purpose. Even anger or fear can become fuel when transmuted. Nothing is wasted. Everything becomes part of the path. Ultimately, integrating sexual energy transmutation into your life is about reclaiming your sovereignty. It's about remembering that your energy is yours, not for the algorithms, not for the industries, not for the distractions that profit from your disempowerment. When you choose to hold and elevate this energy, you send a clear message to the universe. I am ready to live as a creator, not a consumer. I am ready to shape my world from the inside out. It won't happen overnight. This is a practice, a lifestyle, a continual returning. But the deeper you go, the more your entire reality begins to shift. Not because of what you force, but because of what you radiate. You've now seen that what most of the world calls sexual energy is only a sliver of its full truth. Beneath the surface of instinct and impulse lies a current older than time, a sacred life force that can either bind you to patterns of survival or liberate you into your highest expression. The choice is yours, and the difference lies in how you direct that power. Transmutation isn't about denial, It's not about repression or pretending to be above desire. It's about seeing desire clearly, meeting it fully, and choosing to channel it into something greater. You begin to live not from compulsion, but from alignment. Not from fleeting highs, but from sustained purpose. Over time, this creates a new, energetic foundation. You stop cycling through the same emotional spirals. You stop scattering your potential. You start building something real not just outside of you, but within you. This is why the ancient initiates protected this knowledge. Because once you understand how powerful you truly are, once you know that the energy within you can create, heal, manifest, and awaken you, are no longer easy to control. You no longer look to systems for permission. You don't chase validation or escape into excess. You move from a different center, a center of knowing, of presence, of creative force. When you reclaim your sexual energy as sacred and begin to transmute it, you step into the lineage of the mystics, the yogis, the alchemists, those who remembered that the body is not a barrier to enlightenment, but a gateway. You walk the same path they walked, not by memorizing rituals, but by embodying the deeper truth behind them, that your body is a temple, that your energy is divine, that your desire, when honored and directed, becomes the catalyst for your evolution. And perhaps most importantly, you begin to feel whole, not in a fleeting or performative way, but at a soul level. You remember that you are not here to chase power. You are power when you are in harmony with your own life force. You are not here to escape the world. You are here to transmute it, starting with yourself. So what comes next? Integration, practice, awareness, choosing, moment by moment, to hold your energy with reverence, to breathe into discomfort instead of reacting, to create instead of consume, to trust that every urge is an invitation not just to release, but to rise. You are not broken. You were never weak. You were simply taught to forget your own design. But now, something ancient in you is waking up. You may feel it, that stirring in your spine, that pull toward truth, that hunger to remember. Good. Let it rise. The forgotten light in you is remembering. Don't turn away now. If this message opened something in you, I invite you to share your reflections in the comments. Let us know what resonated or what challenged you. Subscribe to this channel for deeper explorations, and share this video with others who are walking the path of conscious evolution. We are just beginning, and the energy we awaken now will shape the reality we live tomorrow.